Your Kansas City Chiefs are in unfamiliar territory as they sit at 6-7, headed into the final 4 games of the season today on Locked On Chiefs.
From the land of the free and the home of the Chiefs, this is the Locked On Chiefs podcast.
And welcome back to another episode of Locked On Chiefs, your Kansas City Chiefs podcast from the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every single day. Thank you for always making us your first listen. We really do appreciate that. We are now the #1 sports podcast network in the United States. Thank you for that as well. There's so much to talk about when you look at this game, how it turned out. Obviously, Kansas City falls to 6-7, a situation where you just don't normally see them. You don't think that they're going to be in a they're not going to be here, but here we are. And you look at how this is going to play out for this team. It is going to be a struggle to have even a chance at making the playoffs at this point. He is my partner, Ryan Tracy from RGR Football and Rogue Analytics, and I am Chris Clark from Chiefs Corner. There is so much to talk about, but before we get into that, today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. If you want to be right in the middle of the action this season, visit FanDuel.com and place your NFL live bets all season long on FanDuel. Man, I don't even know where to begin with what comes next because this is uncharted territory for this Chiefs team. And how do you go forward at this point? I mean, you look at how this game played out. Yeah, Patrick Mahomes has 3 interceptions. How many of those are really on him? Which is a storyline we've had multiple times this season.
Right.
And I actually said this on the squad show. In a way, it's kind of funny is not the right word. It's ironic maybe that Travis Kelce started this run against the Philadelphia Eagles way back when and kind of almost ended it too.
Kind of, except there's 4 more games. Here's the thing, folks. Nothing's over. There will be tomorrow. There will be next week. And yes, you have to go back, and there's only a 10%-ish chance that you make the playoffs. So what do? You become like you were before Patrick Mahomes showed up, where you were a 500 team every year striving to get a couple more W's to get into the postseason. Then you take a step back and you retool and you enjoy the extra month of rest that this team hasn't had in 5 seasons. And you take what you can from that to rebuild and restructure the way you go about things for next season.
Yeah, and next season is going to be a big question. And you and I have talked about this for the past couple of weeks. Is it a possibility that this is just the longevity of how long this run has been? The fact that they've been playing 19, 20-game seasons for the entirety of pretty much Patrick Mahomes' career, has that finally started to catch up to this team? One of the other things that I think that makes this interesting talking about this on the squad show was it also kind of, when you look back at what they've been doing for the past 6 years, they've been playing football basically till February. Mm-hmm. When you do that, you basically lose most of your chances of getting candidates that you maybe want for your coaching staff. And I think that there's a lot of coaching staff changes that could be coming because of the way that this team has been playing. But you look at how this game turned out, and it comes down to your players not making plays. Patrick Mahomes did okay at times, but Travis Kelce dropping a ball, Noah Gray dropped 2, Rashee Rice had one hit him in the hands. Kareem Hunt, I will say that ball probably a little bit inside and not where Mahomes would want it, but that's still a ball that you need to catch in that situation.
Yeah.
Just too many things that went the wrong way and bounced the wrong way, which is exactly, well, and Butker's kick as well. It bounced the wrong way. What has happened to this team this season? That has happened almost every single game. It seems like something has bounced the wrong direction.
It has. And we're going to talk about what the failures are and some of the standouts later in the show. But what comes next is what we're talking about here. And we have to be specific that those things still have to be fixed. This isn't the end of the year. We didn't just see the season finale, right? There's still a quarter of the season left, and you got to still figure things out. And there's a number of things. The fact that this defense looked like it should have looked like all season long is on you, Steve Spagnuolo, and it's on you, Chris Jones. The fact that you had to rally to get to this point is a problem. It should have been this every single damn week. That is the issue at large. And I think it's a good stepping stone because I thought you saw some things that if they are able to rekindle that and recircle it, if this defense can play like that, they have a chance to go win a few more games. And there is that slight chance of still making it in if everything else unwinds like the Indianapolis Colts. There's still some mathematical things to do.
Yeah, that was a huge loss for the Colts, with not only just the loss of the game, but also losing Daniel Jones for the season. Changes the playoffs completely. The one thing I will say, you lose against the Chargers, which is your next game, you're done. The season's over. Then you still have 3 more games you still have to play, but
Right.
then you start thinking, okay, do we maybe have Worthy have his surgery now? Do you not have him continue playing if you're mathematically eliminated from the playoffs? Why would you continue to have him go? Like, there are some things that I think that you consider. You get some guys, some younger guys, some reps. You don't have any chance that Josh Simmons is coming back because there's no reason at that point. But let's go back to let's talk about that for a second. When you start talking about what comes next for this offensive line? You lose Wanya Morris the first snap of the game. And I'm sitting there going, well, there goes that game. And Esa Pole comes in and plays phenomenal pretty much the entire game. Not saying he pitched a shutout and was perfect, but for the situation he was put in and for that being his first NFL game, he played very well for a undrafted rookie.
Yeah, he's one of the standouts we're going to talk about later in the show while we wrap up what we're right in front of us. How do they take what they did and make it repeatable in any way, shape, or form? Because the special teams turned some things around tonight, right? I felt the intensity was there on special teams for the first time in a very long time. Like, that has to repeat next week and the week after that and the week after that. They continued to run the ball well. There were some terrible decisions. That's coming up in a bit as well. But the ability to run the ball was still there. And I think that's another thing that has to come next and over for the duration of the season, no matter who's at quarterback or left tackle or right guard.
Yeah. And you have a lot of injuries on the offensive line. We're going to get into some of the biggest plays and the turning points right after this.
The holidays are officially here, which means gift hunting season is on. And if you want something meaningful, personal, or guaranteed to get a reaction, Aura Frames is the gift that delivers every time. And it's not just something that you wrap, it's a way to share your memories. Because Aura isn't just your average picture frame. You can preload the frame with photos before gifting it. So when they plug it in, the memories are already there for them. No apps to figure out, no setup headaches, just instant smiles. Grandparents, parents, newlyweds, anyone who loves photos, you want to do that. You can add a personalized message right there so the frame feels thoughtful at the moment that it's open. Packaging comes off gift ready with no price tag, no wrapping needed. It's a huge win. For a limited time, you can save on the perfect gift by visiting auraframes.com and get $35 off of Aura's best-selling Carver matte frames, named #1 by Wirecutter, by using the promo code LOCKEDON when you check out. That's Aura, AURA, frames.com. Promo code LOCKEDON. This deal is exclusive to listeners, and the frames do sell out fast, so order now and get it before the holidays. Support the show by mentioning us at checkout. That always helps. Terms and conditions do apply.
You look at how this game turned out, and it is absolutely crazy that they were even in the game going into the second half. The way they played in the first half, they probably shouldn't have been in the game in the second half. And to be in the game in the second half and to come out and basically do what they did to the Houston Texans for the entirety of the third quarter, where I think the Texans had a -2 yards and still basically lose by another 10 points because you can't do anything in the fourth. Up and down, it doesn't even begin to describe it. Turning points easily drops and interceptions are some of the easier ones, but I'm sure you have one that you want to talk about to begin with.
Yeah, it is the turning point of the game for me. And you kind of just described what died when it happened. And that's the fact that you get yourself in a situation that you're in third and a long one. I couldn't care less if it's a long one. 4th and 1, 4th and 2, 4th and 3 at this point. You have proven you can get the ball done. And the coaching decision to not run, or at least not fake the run, was what turned this game. It made that down impossible to get unless Mahomes made some miraculous play yet again. And as we saw during the game, the knee injury is real and it is bothering him. So asking or thinking that he'd be able to do that was ludicrous to begin with. And the fact that Andy Reid and Matt Nagy blew that call derailed what that defense was doing. That sunk this game. Period. Job number one, no matter what. The injuries aside, the interceptions aside, that decision killed this game.
Are you talking about the 3rd and 1 before the 4th and 1?
No, I'm talking about the 4th and 1 itself.
Oh, the 4th and 1. Okay, you said 3rd, so I wanted to clarify.
I'm a little fired up. Sorry.
No, you're good. I just want to make sure I'm talking about the same play. But to me, like, what have we talked about all season long? We have talked about the need to stay aggressive. And while and I will say this, the broadcast made the point, and I think that it's a valid point. Like, in that situation, the metrics say go for it by 3%. I wouldn't have necessarily cared regardless. I didn't like the play call. I will say that. But I would have also understood in that moment if Reid would have kicked. And I almost think he should have kicked as opposed to going for it on that down. Not necessarily because I think they shouldn't have put the ball in Mahomes' hands, but because what had you seen to that point? You had seen a dominant defense for the Chiefs that hadn't allowed Houston to do anything. And you kickstarted their offense by giving them the ball or having a chance to give them the ball on your own 30-yard line. To me, that was a dumb decision. And I have been somebody that has said all season long, they need to stay aggressive and they need to keep going for it. That, in my opinion, was the wrong decision. They should have punted. And I know a lot of people won't agree with that. That's fine. But to me, they should have punted in that situation because of where you were on the field and because of the way your defense had been playing, which isn't going to play into the metrics that they're looking at in that scenario.
I mean, that's certainly an argument to be made. And I don't think it was a drastic, like you said, a 3% right there, right? So if it had come down to that and we were talking about, do you take the 4th down and make a play or do you punt? I think that's an argument worth having. It certainly should have been at the time. It's once you made the decision that you're going to go, the play selection was absolutely horrendous. And it didn't give you a chance to play into your strengths or to make sure that you had an option there to play off of it. By running that play that way, you limited yourself too much to play into that defense's hands. That's my problem. It wasn't the decision to go or not go. It was how you decided to go for me that I felt turned that entire game and nullified some big plays from Xavier, from Hollywood at some times. All the effort that went in on the defensive side, I think that took the sails out of the defense, and I think that's part of why that tone on the defensive side turned right then as well.
Yeah. Well, and when you give them the ball where they're basically in field goal range before they even take the ball over, I mean, the other side of this, when you look at how this game played out, you lose the turnover battle to 3-0, and you're even in the game, says everything that you should probably think about when you look at this game. Your defense gave you the opportunity to win against a good CJ Stroud. CJ Stroud at times struggled. Don't get me wrong. The 3rd quarter was very rough for Stroud, but some of the plays he made in the 4th quarter are what got Houston to win this game. And to me, I love the blitzing. I love the things that we haven't seen most of the season. I love the passion that I saw Chris Jones playing with. But you just look at how this game turned out, and you have to wonder, yeah, you're maybe 1 or 2 plays away, but considering how the ball has bounced for you every single time, just about every single game this season, it didn't shock me that it didn't bounce their direction.
I agree. It wasn't like the tide of luck was going to change, right? So
right.
I see exactly where you're coming from. And I think decisions aside, raising your game is something that you have to be able to do. And quite frankly, while there were some big plays made, George Karlaftis had a couple of nice ones today. Chris Jones obviously was a terror, both with the pass rush and when they started double teaming and getting batted balls, etc. Like that is all well and good. There are still mental mistakes happening. There were at least 3 blown coverages that I saw that resulted in big plays. One of them injuring Trent McDuffie, unfortunately. And that comes We're going to talk about that all week. Folks, if you're ready to talk about Trent McDuffie and what exactly happened there, I will lay it all out for you tomorrow. We don't have time tonight. It is late, and we're talking about the game itself. All those things come down to the fact that you're able to say some things, but you weren't able to produce big plays enough to counteract your own mistakes. The biggest plays that were made in this game were the Chiefs' mistakes.
Well, and I would also argue that there was a turning point, a potential turning point that went null in this game. And it's Tyquan Thornton in the middle of the end zone, Patrick Mahomes. I'm not saying it was a perfect throw because another 6 inches to a foot further, probably the DB can't get his hands there, but you have to make that play. You are an NFL wide receiver. You absolutely have to make that play. And if they catch that, it changes the entire game. Like, you're in a situation where you can probably win the game because you're scoring a touchdown there versus whatever they ended up, versus what they did. And it was something that would have gotten the offense going. It would have given the defense the ball down more closer to their 20 or 30 yard line on the other side, because you kick the ball off. Like, that one play specifically, Mahomes put it where it needed to be, and his wide receiver let him down. Now, on the flip side of that, you go back to his basically arm punt, and you talk about his knee being an issue. He had to put everything he had on that ball and still couldn't get it where it needed to be. It was at least 5 yards short, if not more. Mm-hmm. And that was a 42-yard arm punt? Like, he used to be able to throw the ball 70 yards. There are injuries beyond just the knee, I'm afraid, that we don't know about, because there's no way he should have not had the ability to make that throw.
Well, I think those are all tied together. I think it being his plant leg, when he does have to really heave it, I do think that is a factor in why a lot of these were underthrown, because he's been overthrowing receivers most of the season. So it's not until this knee that it started to go under. And I do think, while I agree Thornton could have made a play for the ball in the air, he's been screamed at all season: run through your routes, get there and keep running. The ball was underthrown. He could have made an adjustment, but I think given everything that he's been taught over this season, I think he played it the way that he felt he was supposed to play it. Not to make an excuse for the kid, but I do think he was put in a position where if it wasn't for a great play on the defense, that's a touchdown anyway. So he was one of the standouts. We're going to get to a bunch more, as well as the systemic failures that can't be overcome, but have to be fixed by next week. Next. NFL season is back, and honestly, there's nothing better than being in the stadium surrounded by your fans cheering on your team. But let's be honest, getting tickets is a hassle. Between queues, login screens, prices jumping at checkout, it's frustrating. And that's why I use Game Time, the app that gives the advantage back to the fans. Game Time makes it fast, easy, and they're backed by the Game Time guarantee. You'll always get 100% authentic tickets delivered on time and at the best price. Plus, all the fees are included. So the price you see is the price that you pay. I pull up Game Time, and just a couple of taps, I can see amazing deals. Find my section that I really like in the corner of the end zone. And I'm talking about all of the Chiefs games, the NFL games that you're looking for, some as low as $100. You got to get on that action. And this is how you do it. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use our code LOCKEDONNFL, all one word, for $20 off of your first purchase. Terms apply. But again, the promo code is LOCKEDONNFL, LOCKEDONNFL, for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket, go. Download Game Time today. NFL Sundays move fast. One big play and suddenly everything feels different. That's what makes live betting with FanDuel so exciting. You're not just watching the game, you're reacting to it in real time. With FanDuel, you can place bets on as the action unfolds, every drive, every momentum swing, every highlight moment. Live betting is the best when the game starts, to try to find that shift, the receiver that gets hot, the defense that tightens up, and even the last minute momentum flips after a turnover or whatever jumps into it. Right now, you can even bet on the Super Bowl odds, and your Chiefs, despite their season, are still in it at 1,700. Plus, live spreads, money lines, they just go on top of all that. Player props are there as well. You can get into the action right now for all the top scores and all the live action. So if you want to be in right in the middle of this action. You can do it the rest of this season at FanDuel.com and place your live NFL bets all season long. At FanDuel, the game moves fast, and so can you.
If you never miss an episode, it's time to make it official. Join the Locked On Everydayer Club and get ad-free access to our audio, our access to our members-only Discord, and more, all built for our most loyal fans. Click it to find, we will have this down in the show notes, click to find our team's community on Discord and go join us on our Everydayer Club. So much to talk about when we start looking at the standouts in this game, in any of the failures, which there were plenty. Obviously, I kind of mentioned the first one that I would like to talk about when you start talking standouts. Esa Pole played fantastic for the position he was put in. Granted, I want to go back and I want to watch it. I want to see what I can see from it. But on first look, way better than I expected from a kid that was thrown in that didn't have any real NFL action before tonight's game.
Yeah, he was really impressive, and unfortunately, I'm having the same kind of situation with my autofocus. Oh, there we go. Pole, he was the guy that we talked about in training camp that we both liked. I was adamant that he should have been a developmental tackle, at least on this practice squad. They let him get away. They were lucky that the Jets couldn't make it work either, yet he comes back here, and with probably very few reps this week. I don't have a count for you, but knowing that Simmons and Taylor were hurting, they gave all the practice reps to Moore and Morris to get them ready. He steps in basically cold into a tough situation. I personally feel that Myles Garrett is a better singular pass rusher than Will Anderson, but as a group, he and Hunter are as good a pair as you're going to find up there with the Giants pass rushers. And to be able to withstand that, I think he gave up 2 pressures is the early count here from initial watch. I was super impressed with his ability to come out there. So much so that I have the lineup for next season already riddled out. It's Simmons on one side, Moore on the other, and Pole is your swing. Taylor, we've talked about him, his contract need probably being gone. Pole showed me tonight in one game, having not gotten any snaps all season, being able to step in against that pass rush and do what he did, that he is ready to be a contributor next season.
I would take it a step further and say that I'm not so sure he's not the starting right tackle next season.
He's never played right tackle. That's my only concern.
Maybe, but given an offseason, and this is one of those conversations that we'll have to have at some point later, I think that there could be huge turnover with this coaching staff in the offseason. And if that's the case, it is not going to shock me if there are some big moves when you start looking at who's going to be playing what position. I don't think there's any possible way Juwan Taylor is back in Kansas City in 2026. Don't ever think that was going to be a possibility based on his contract. And to me, I don't think you're overpaying Jalen Moore to be your swing tackle if you can get Simmons as your left and Pole as your right. And it's even better for Kansas City if he can play right tackle, because then you have your right tackle for the next several years, not just under contract next year. And then you have your whole offensive line signed for the next couple of years.
That makes a big, big difference. And the old men being guys that are freshly on their second contracts. That's impressive. It definitely was one of the standout players. The other one for me, especially, I was concerned with CRW having to go to IR this week. I was concerned about how they were going to make the coverage work. Then McDuffie goes down. Easily your best player in the secondary. Easily. And Noel Williams is able to not only continue to hold up his side of the field, but be able to be a little bit more malleable and have to take on more of those pressure situations against big physical receivers. Now, I think he plays very well against physical receivers, so I don't think that was the stretch. But while I thought he was a little frenetic early, I thought he settled down. I think he was a big presence as well. Always room to improve. But he was, I think, solidifying tonight his ability to be that guy on the outside opposite Watson.
I think it's interesting because you watch this, and I'm not going to say that Watson was a standout. I'm not going to say Connor was a standout, but they had standout plays. And you talk about some nice form tackles that gave this Chiefs defense a chance to make plays and gave this Chiefs team a chance to be in the game late. Jalen Watson and Shamari Connor had some huge stops at different times for this team. And I do think that that's kind of again, they're not standouts for necessarily the entire game, but those types of plays are the things that you need. It showed that this coaching staff has gotten the team ready in some regards, hasn't been consistent enough, and that's really the problem. Then you start looking at the failures, and there were many. 4 drops, 5 drops, maybe.
More than that, 2 by Gray alone to start this. This was a big problem of getting the rhythmic plays that should be the easy catches. That's what threw the offense off in the first quarter.
Well, yeah, and Noah Gray, a guy that always catches the ball, or at least makes it look like he is, he makes even hard catches look, I'm not going to say easy, but okay, like not bad. And even these just went right through his hands, like catches that he's made in his sleep. I don't know if it's coming back from the injury and just not having the focus there. I don't know what it was, but him having drops. Kelce, I think, had 2 drops. And
Rice again down the stretch. I only had 6, but I think there were actually more.
It could be. I'm still torn on the Hunt one because I do think it was behind him, and it would have been like he was just, that one's tough. Like he hit him in the helmet, and he's running the opposite direction, and it's a short throw. So I agree with you. You definitely could call that a drop. I'm going to be curious to see how the statisticians count that one, but
I'm sure they practiced the snot out of it, though. So my expectation is you make that. But here's the thing. That was behind him. One of Travis's drops was behind him. There were a number of passes. The accuracy from the quarterback tonight was not good enough. Patrick Mahomes was not good enough in accuracy tonight.
Period. No, but the bigger problem is I don't think that you have a chance if you put in Gardner Minshew in this game. And the reality is I think that's what it came down to. Is Mahomes looked at this, said, we have to win this game. This is a playoff game. I'm going to go out there and play. Even if I'm not healthy enough to go out there and play, I'm going to do it anyway. And this is what you get. And yeah, I'm not saying that he is, I mean, at times he still acted like Superman. Like you look at him limping with the knee, and yet he's still running on scrambles for 10, 15 yards, just like, and getting just enough speed to get out of whoever's way that's chasing him, but not looking super fast at the same time. Like the one thing he always seems to do.
Yeah, he did come up short a couple of times, though. And I think that led to some of this is because of the physicality. And there are more failures there. And I will tell you, tomorrow we're going to talk about what has to happen. And one thing about Patrick Mahomes playing down the stretch for this last quarter of the season is dependent on Trey Smith, as far as I'm concerned. I'll explain to you guys why tomorrow. Chris, you might not agree with me, but I am fairly adamant tonight after this ballgame, there is one condition that I have to have.
It'll be interesting to see what we have for tomorrow. Any other failures that you want to talk about real quick?
You know, there were plenty of them. And as much as I thought the special teams stood up, you cannot pay Harrison Butker and expect the legitimate performance and not have him perform any longer. There is something more wrong there than we imagined. At his tenure, this should not be happening, period.
I would almost say that maybe it's a coaching change that needs to happen on the special teams unit, because you look at all the penalties the special teams unit has had. You look at the fact that they haven't taken a kick back. I don't even know if they've really busted a kick for 40 yards this season, have they? I mean, this unit has been bad in. Well, one, but I think that the one that they did have that was long came back because of a penalty. So I don't think that they've really had any good kick returns. And the other thing that you run into with this is you're really going to put Xavier Worthy back there as your punt returner. That to me was a failure on the coaching staff's part to not be prepared for Remigio going down. Like, I don't put him out there with the injury he's had.
We have so many things to talk about. In fact, maybe tomorrow we will talk about the failures of the coaching staff specifically, because that was one of them. And Rashard Smith should have been given more opportunity in multiple ways. And that is another failure on the coaching staff. There's a lot that has gone into this, folks. And we are already long on this program tonight. Thank you for staying up with us. Matt Derrick had technical difficulties. That's why he wasn't with us. But tomorrow we will talk about this coaching staff and where the gaps are and where the fixes have to come. Maybe if I'm just talking to myself, I don't know. We hadn't planned that show yet, but that's what I feel we need to do.
There's going to be plenty to talk about when you start looking at the failures and what it's going to mean. I'm going to be curious because I do want to talk about this tomorrow. what happens and what changes for this team if they lose against the Chargers. Yes, we're talking about this game, but if they lose one more, this season is basically over, and that there is going to be some big conversations to have. We're going to get into that tomorrow. Thank you all for listening today. We will be back tomorrow. Have a good one, and we'll talk to you then.